A lot of people say they want to learn faster with AI, but what they really do is consume faster. Those are not the same thing. Watching more summaries, pulling more notes, and generating more explanations can feel like learning when it is really just smoother input. Real learning shows up when you can explain, apply, recall, and use the thing later without starting over from zero. That is why I can either make learning stronger or weaker depending on how you use it. If you use it to remove all struggle, your brain gets lazy. If you use it to structure practice, create better questions, and expose the gaps in your understanding, it becomes a cheat code for feedback. The difference is whether AI is doing the thinking for you or helping you confront what you do not yet understand. The fastest learning loop I found is simple: compress, retrieve, apply, teach back. First, compress the material so you can see the structure, then retrieve it from memory without looking. Then apply it to a real situation, then teach it back in plain language. AI is useful at every stage, but only if you refuse to let it become a substitute for recall. The reason this matters so much is that learning faster is rarely a one-time problem. It repeats. That means the cost of a weak workflow keeps showing up again and again, usually in small, invisible ways. You lose 10 minutes here, 15 there, and another 20 because the first output came back in the wrong shape. That is exactly where AI should earn its keep, not as a novelty machine. As a friction reducer, if a system can repeatedly take you have articles, videos, transcripts, and notes, but they are turning into passive consumption instead of durable understanding, and turn it into a study loop built around recall, correction, and application, then it is worth keeping. If it cannot do that on a normal Tuesday, then it is probably just a demo-friendly trick. One thing that helps immediately is collecting better raw material before you prompt. People often ask AI to rescue work that was never defined clearly in the first place. Better inputs do not need to be elegant, they just need to be real. Use your rough notes, actual constraints, unfinished thoughts, ugly examples, deadlines, names, goals, and the pieces you are normally tempted to leave out. Real context gives the model something to grip, vague requests force it to guess. And when the setup is based on guessing, the output usually needs too much cleanup to feel like a real time saver. I also think the order of operations matters more than the exact wording. For learning faster, the best sequence is usually to get the mess visible, compress it into structure, turn that structure into one usable output, and only then polish. People often reverse that. They chase the polished version before they have a useful version. That slows everything down. A rough draft, rough plan, rough schedule, rough recap, or rough decision frame is not a failure. It is the bridge between confusion and refinement. AI is strongest when it helps you cross that bridge fast. Here's a simple practical test. Imagine you're in the middle of a busy week and you have articles, videos, transcripts, and notes, but they are turning into passive consumption instead of durable understanding. You are not calm, not fully prepared, and definitely not in the mood to build a masterpiece workflow from scratch. Could the system still help you produce a study loop built around recall, correction, and application in a way that feels lighter than doing it alone? That is the real benchmark. Systems should be judged under pressure, not only when you have free time and perfect energy. Anything that collapses the moment life gets noisy was never a strong system, it was just neat formatting. Another big upgrade is separating creation from evaluation. When people use AI badly, they often try to generate and judge at the same time, which creates hesitation. It is better to ask for one solid pass, then evaluate that pass with a clear lens. For learning faster, the lens might be clarity, speed, tone, trust, scannability, actionability, or fit with your real constraints. Once the lens is named, the second pass becomes sharper. Instead of vaguely feeling that something is off, you can point to the exact problem and correct it quickly. I would also save more than prompts. Save output shapes, save the exact format that made the result easy to use. Maybe that is a 3 paragraph email, a 1 page weekly plan, a short action board, a title family, a review template, or a decision table. The prompt matters, but the output shape matters just as much because it reduces cleanup next time. A lot of people save words and forget structure. Then they wonder why the next session still feels like work. Structure is what makes repetition easier. The last thing I would watch is whether the system makes you calmer or just busier. That sounds soft, but it is actually a brutal test. Good AI use should reduce friction, reduce rework, and reduce ambiguity. It should not create extra tabs, extra versions, extra maintenance, and extra thinking you now have to manage. When learning faster is working, you feel more decisive because the next move is clearer. That is how you know the workflow is doing its job. It is not just producing text, it is producing momentum. There's also a measurement angle here that people skip. After you use AI for learning faster, ask what changed in the actual work. Did you get to a first draft faster? Did the cleanup shrink? Did the decision become easier? Did follow through improve? Did you avoid a repeated mistake? Those are useful signals because they keep the workflow grounded in results instead of vibes. A system does not become good because it feels advanced. It becomes good because it changes the quality or speed of output in a way you can feel inside a normal week. If I were tightening this further, I would create a tiny checklist for the moments when the output misses. Was the context too weak? Was the ask too broad? Was the output format missing? Did I skip the second pass? Did I save the wrong thing last time? That kind of diagnosis matters because bad results often come from sloppy setup, not from some mysterious failure of AI itself. Once you can diagnose the miss, the workflow improves fast because you stop treating every weak result like a full restart. That is really the bigger theme under all of this. You do not need a perfect relationship with AI. You need a workable one, something that can take you have articles, videos, transcripts, and notes, but they are turning into passive consumption instead of durable understanding, and move it toward a study loop built around recall, correction, and application without turning the process into another source of chaos. When a workflow starts doing that consistently, confidence goes up because you are no longer gambling every session. You know roughly what the system is for, how to steer it, and how to clean the output into something that fits your real work. Say you're trying to learn a topic, a software workflow, a sales process, or a new research area. Start by feeding the material in and asking AI to simplify the structure, not just summarize the words. What are the main ideas? How do they connect? What terms actually matter? And what common confusion should I expect? That turns a wall of content into a map. A map is easier to learn from than a pile. Then comes the important part. Close the source and try to explain the idea yourself. You can ask AI to quiz you, challenge your explanation, or point out what you missed, but you have to attempt the recall first. That attempt is where the learning happens. AI becomes useful as a feedback partner, not as an answer vending machine. That is the switch that makes the results real. The apply stage is where things click. Ask AI to generate scenarios, case studies, mini exercises, or examples that force you to use the concept instead of just recognizing it. If you are learning copywriting, rewrite weak headlines. If you are learning sales, handle objections. If you are learning a tool, build a small workflow with it. Application makes the knowledge sticky because it gets tied to action. The biggest mistake is asking for summaries over and over because summaries feel efficient. They're efficient for exposure, not mastery. Another mistake is taking notes you never test. Notes are only useful if they make retrieval or application easier later, and stop mistaking recognition for understanding. Just because something looks familiar does not mean you can use it under pressure. The real result is not that AI makes hard things instantly easy. The real result is that it shortens the distance between confusion and feedback. That matters a lot. When you can get clean explanations, custom quizzes, practice scenarios, and correction on demand, learning speeds up. but only if you keep yourself in the loop, use AI to sharpen the struggle, not erase it, and your learning gets faster in a way that actually sticks.